Why, hello, you gorgeous, amazing, wonderful, talented, special person. Chances are, if you're watching my stuff, you've been through some stuff, and you're a survivor. You're much stronger than you probably even realize. You don't give yourself that credit, because nobody else gives you that credit, probably. So I want to give you that credit. You're a strong motherfucker. You've been through some stuff. You should be proud. You really should. Anyway, I'm saying all of this because our inputs and outputs matter, especially our inputs. Our inputs have a really big impact on the outputs. So you've all heard the average, you're the average of your five closest friends. Well, that's also for all of your inputs. And I think there's a sixth one that is also just as important. And that's yourself, how you allow yourself to think. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. We are mimetic social animals. We see and then we know kind of how to do. Kind of. We very much we see and we do. There are mirror neurons that fire off in our brains, and then we're like, aha. And that's why you're the average of your five closest friends or inputs. Um, so, what if? So, okay, so a classic example as well, because it's not just your friends. Um, it's everything that you've come into contact with actually sometimes leaves more of a mark on you than you think possible. I read somewhere that if you are trying to make a decision on something, give yourself as many options as you possibly can because then you'll have more context, even if they are bad options, you know. So if you're deciding, should I go to Greece or should I go to Paris? And you think to yourself, well, maybe I should go to Athlone in in Cape Town instead, uh, or some of the some of the really scary places in the world. Uh, just give yourself really bad options, and as many options as you have actually create more context. But we don't really realize this as humans. We don't realize that the things that we pick up stay with us. So, for instance, Sylvia Plath, author back in the day, she took herself out of the game by putting her head in a gas oven. Um, and yeah, 35 minutes, about 180 degrees. I don't think the gas oven was lit. Um, and she was done. A weird thing is, women all over um, the UK, I think, um, the incidence of suicide skyrocketed after Sylvia Plath's death, and all by the same method. Um, Now, did it mean that all these women were naturally suicidal? Very possibly. You're like, okay, cool. So, excuse me. So the people in charge thought, okay, let's make this gas that comes out, less lethal, um, which they did. And so now you, that doesn't work. Um, and you would think that if these people are suicidal, that if they want to do something, they'll do it, right? No. After changing the gas, you would think that the rate of suicide would stay the same because people who want to do things do those things. But they didn't. The the rate dropped drastically. So in my family, my mother and my uncle, everybody in that cohort, the full brothers, both of them committed suicide. And this word has been in my vocabulary for as long as I can remember. And it makes me wonder that if that wasn't the case, if I'd never learned the word, maybe, or come into contact with the, maybe I wouldn't automatically jump there when things get bad. Um, oh, so I don't know much about codependency, but in the last relationship, major relationship I had, I realized very clearly that there was something that I was carrying from childhood, um, because I grew up in such a strange way of, being pretty much hunted, every day, thinking about, okay, is he gonna kill my mother and kidnap me today? Um, Ended up going to 10 schools, moving multiple times per school, because every time he found us, we would have to move in the night, and he found us kind of often. So I looked outwards to my mother to see were we okay, and I got very, very good at being able to read her. If she was okay, if that meant we were okay, that meant I was okay. And I didn't realize this, but I grew up with that, so that when I was in relationships, if I looked at my partner, if they were okay, I was okay. And with my last major partner, she was very mercurial. I don't know if she just didn't have emotional regulation skills, or she just had massive emotions, probably a bit of both. Um, but I tried to manage her emotions because that was what I always did for my mother. So I tried to make sure everything was clean, quiet, or whatever, you know. Um, but when she dropped, I would drop to the point of suicidal ideation and then planning. Um, and realizing that planning something so drastic because somebody else's mood, that's a little bit hectic. So what I've started doing, and it feels very, at first it feels very childish, and then it feels weird, and slowly it's becoming more normal. But I'm trying, instead of looking at other people to see how I'm doing, I'm looking inward first and going, okay, well, how do I feel right now? Like in my body, like, do I have a sense of the sky above me? Can I feel the ground below me? I'm here. How do I feel? And it's like, okay, I don't feel bad. I feel okay. And okay, and now what do I want? Um, and I'm in a bit of a, what would you call it? Um, Interstitial stage at the moment. Um, and I get to pick, because I'm starting over in a lot of ways, and I get to pick new furniture and new curtains and bedding, all of that stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, what do I want? What furniture do I want? What area do I want to live in? And what do I want? How do I want my daily habits to be like? Um, and going down that has been incredibly helpful, um, because knowing what you want, um, it immediately blocks off anything when somebody else comes that isn't with that. Where previously, if somebody came to you, that would override anything that you thought that you want before you knew what you wanted. So deciding what you want first actually is a great eliminator, um, of other people's influence on you. Um, and okay, so lastly, I said the average of your five closest friends, but also how you allow yourself to speak to yourself um, has a major influence on what you allow other people to react, how you allow them to interact with you. So if I shout at myself in my mind, I think, okay, that's totally fine because I did that stupid thing and I deserve that abuse. Then if somebody else shouts at me, I'll think, well, yeah, I had it coming. I did that stupid thing, had that abuse. But if I make a mistake and I'm like, that was a silly mistake, that's not, okay, what can we do to make sure that that never happens again? Okay. And speak to myself with gentleness and kindness and thoughtfulness and wisdom and patience. Not only will I trust myself much more, but if I make a mistake in the future and somebody comes along and just starts shouting at me, how credible, firstly, will I consider them? I'll be like, this person's a little bit mad. This is just a silly little mistake. I can learn from this. I can fix this. It's not a big thing. So how you speak to yourself is vitally important. Um, and yeah, so if you're anything like me and you take more of your inputs, well, you probably are like me because you're a human, and we're a social species. So what I'm saying is try keep your inputs as wholesome and as close to how you would like to be. Because parts of you are giving your prefrontal cortex little messages all the time. Those are those little quiet voices that you hear, you know. And so part of you desperately wants you to have those wholesome, beautiful inputs for you so that you can heal. And that's, yeah, listen to those quiet little things. Make those quiet little things priority over the loud things in front of your face. Because those mirror neurons were for when we were children, to learn how to react and survive in our tribe. But we don't live in tribes anymore, not nearly like we did. And we're adults. So we can choose our reactions and we can choose how we speak to ourselves. So speak to yourself like somebody that you love, respect, admire, because you're worthy of all those things. And you're allowed to think of yourself more than how other people have treated you. I hope you have a truly beautiful day. Thank you for spending this time with me.